Good evening, Rolling Meadows. This is the City Council meeting for April 10th, 2018. We were beginning at 7:30. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Cannon.
Here.
Budmatz.
Present.
Majakis. Here. Gallo.
Here.
Banjer.
Here.
Diestis.
Present.
Veenbos.
Present.
7 present and none absent. We do have a quorum. The first order of business is to approve the minutes from the March 20th, 2018 Committee of the Whole meeting and the March 27th, 2018 Council meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Mr. Banjer has made it. Do I have a second? It has been seconded. Is there any corrections, additions, and deletions to the minutes? Seeing none, the question is, shall the minutes be approved? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. The minutes are approved. This brings us back to the mayor's report. I did have the opportunity to meet with members of the Rolling Meadows Library and at the Rolling Meadows Library, and one of the things that was brought to my attention is, since they have done their addition, is they do have rooms that residents and businesses can reserve for meetings, for small group meetings. So I just wanted to bring that out and thank you, for the Rolling Meadows Library for meeting with me. Ward reports? No reports? Okay, we do have signatories tonight. The council meeting is now open to members of the audience for 20 minutes to address the council on matters that are not on the agenda or regarding other issues. We ask that persons wishing to address the City Council keep their comments to 5 minutes or less in length. Comments must be addressed to the council as a whole, though through the mayor, and profanity may not be used in any form. The first person to sign in is Chris Heath. Hush. Sorry. Thank you. I apologize, Chris.
That's all right. It's probably my spelling. I'd like to thank the council for your time tonight. I'm Chris Hush, one of the owners of AH Management Group, Awesome Hand Gaming. We have been located in the city of Rolling Meadows since 1972. Awesome Hand Gaming is a licensed operator that owns video gaming machines, in which we put machines in licensed establishments and we service those machines. I will repeat what I said in a previous meeting. Video gaming has been legal for over 5 years in Illinois. There are over 975 communities, 6,450 locations, and over 28,000 machines operating establishments in Illinois. Each of the 975 communities that have made the decision to allow video gaming machines may also reverse the decision at any time. But at this point, none have. I have an example of another community in St. Charles, Illinois. They did an 18-month trial period with a sunset clause at the end of 18 months, which just came up in March, April. And they decided to support video gaming indefinitely. In the article in the Daily Herald of 3/12/18, it was stated, with no violations or related crimes reported so far, some aldermen said they see no reason to end a program that also helps local businesses remain competitive. I have copies of this article if anybody would like it. I'll just hand them up there. I just want to say thank you for your time.
And thank you for coming forward.
Thanks.
The next young gentleman up is Vince Buffalino. I knew I was going to.
You were close.
I was close, but thank you.
My name is Vince Buffalino, and I'm the owner of Stadium Sports Club and Pizza, as well as Meadow Square Shopping Center, on Algonquin Road. I'd like to thank Mr. Mayor and the City Council for the opportunity to address the issue of video gaming. I would also like to thank the Rolling Meadows residents and loyal customers who have come out tonight to show their support for passage of video gaming. I've been a business owner in Rolling Meadows since 1976 and the stadium for over 30 years. I've donated my time, money, and services to many of the activities and organizations in Rolling Meadows. Throughout the past 42 years, we've sponsored close to 100 youth baseball teams, supported activities such as Christmas tree lighting, spaghetti dinner, National Night Out, Wine Down by the Creek, senior luncheons, veterans dinners, and Thanksgiving dinners for less fortunate, and other worthy events. As you all well know, the economic climate for retail space is a very difficult one. I am at a disadvantage with the many towns that allow video gaming and need to have a more level playing field in order for my business to survive, as well as the shopping center to remain viable. It is important for the gaming ordinance to be passed so we can remain competitive with other communities. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming forward. The next sign-in is Mark Melhop.
Good evening. I support the video gaming because that would create more money to spend in the town instead of going into other towns and spend the money. I like to see this grow and get other businesses in the town, and that will keep the money back into here and hopefully keep our taxes from going up any more than they are. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for coming forward. Next signatory, is it Dale? Sorry, Dale, the handwriting was a little...
I had hard time again.
Oh, okay.
Good evening. I'm here to talk about video gaming, too. I was with John 2 or 3 years ago when we first brought it up. He brought it up to the council. And as more and more towns around us are getting it, we're left behind again. Elk Grove, I don't know if you guys read the paper. You guys are talking about putting a tax on natural gas and then maybe offset it by not having to pay for city stickers, for vehicle stickers. Well, Elk Grove gets enough money out of their video gaming that they don't pay city sticker tax somewhere for their vehicles. That was in the Daily Herald. So we can either stay here and stay like we are and watch all the other towns, people go spend their money there, just like I have said in the past. And like I said, Rolling Meadows sponsors the Arlington Park Day. If everybody's against gambling, I think the city should cancel the Arlington Park Day. Because, in my opinion, we go to Arlington Park, what do we do at Arlington Park? We're not there for carnival rides, we're there to gamble. And then another thing that I want to bring up is a few years back, Mark Melhop talked to Valerie about getting a golden corral in town. And at that time, she told him that wasn't her job, that was the council's job. Well, now I see over in Arlington, they have a golden corral coming in. So we can fill empty spaces. Arlington's proved it, Schaumburg's proved it. So here again, we're going to have to look at ways to bring business to Rolling Meadows. And, if we have to change, Mr. Mayor, if you have to change, if Barry has to change, we need to bring businesses to Rolling Meadows to keep our taxes down. But most importantly, it's the video gaming is, we got to pass it. I mean, if we don't, we're just going to be left behind. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming forward. The next signatory is Linda Ballantyne.
Good Good evening, City Council members. I'm Linda Lyles Ballantyne, Executive Director with the Rolling Meadows Chamber of Commerce. Although I gave you a memorandum back in February that pinpointed the reasons that our Board of Directors supported the video gaming, I thought it would be helpful for you to know that half of our Board of Directors are comprised of business people who are also longtime residents of Rolling Meadows, including myself. We have a vested interest in our community as a whole that includes keeping businesses economically viable and generating new economic development-related revenue sources for the city. The Rolling Meadows Chamber of Commerce represents a diverse membership base that includes independent sit-down restaurants looking for assistance to grow their business in the area of video gaming for entertainment purposes. Smaller independent restaurants face many economic challenges, making it increasingly more difficult to maintain their businesses or to even stay in business. With added revenue, these independent-style restaurant establishments would have the ability to either expand, grow their operations, make needed improvements, and/or increase their employment base. Video gaming could also be beneficial to owners of retail strip centers in marketing vacant tenant spaces that have otherwise remained unoccupied for years, generating no income for the owners and no income for the city. The Chamber firmly believes that a better community means better economic business conditions that will translate into profitable businesses, providing jobs and becoming more engaged in the community through sponsorships, partnerships, and community outreach. Our organization looks to your support of video gaming in Rolling Meadows as it pertains to economic stimulus and economic development within the community. Thank you very much.
And thank you for coming forward. That's the end of the signatories. This now moves the council on for ordinance in for the second reading. Ordinance A is to approve a sign variance for billboard sign at 3975 Algonquin. This ordinance, if adopted, would approve a sign appeal for an off-premise advertising digital billboard at 3975 Algonquin Road. At the regularly scheduled Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on March 6, 2018, a public hearing was held and the Plan Commission recommended approval 5-2 vote of this petition with conditions. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance? Mr. Cannon has made it. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Diaston has seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Budmats?
Yes.
Majikis?
Yes.
Gallo?
Yes.
Baner?
No.
Diestis?
Yes.
Beanbass?
Yes.
Cannon?
Yes.
With 6 in favor and 1 opposed, this ordinance is adopted. Ordinance B is to approve the application for an A2 liquor license for Reps Place Sports, Burgers, and Beer located at 3200 Hirchoff Road. This ordinance, if adopted, would authorize selling a liquor license application to the owner of Reps Sports, Burgers, and Beers. Is there a motion to adopt the ordinance? Ms. Majikis has made that and has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Majikis?
Yes.
Gallo?
Yes.
Baner?
Yes.
Diestis?
Yes.
Beanbass?
Yes.
Cannon?
Yes.
Budmats?
Yes.
With 7 in favor, none opposed, that ordinance is adopted. The next item on the agenda is the consent ordinances in for the first reading. There are 4 items, C through F. Does any alderman wish to approve? Any alderman wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Mr. Banger?
C enough.
Mr. Budmats?
D.
Okay. We no longer have a consent ordinance. So the first ordinance is Ordinance C, to amend the code for video gambling. This ordinance, if adopted, would amend Chapter 22 Business in the City Code to allow for video gambling machines in the city of Rolling Meadows. Do I have a motion for this ordinance?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Diastis has made it. It has been seconded. Mr. Banger, you are first on the agenda.
Thank you. No new comments. I've been against this from the beginning. Thanks.
Okay. Any other comments? Further discussion? Okay. Yes, Mr. Budvatz.
I'd like to amend the ordinance or proposed ordinance to limit the to only establishments with A1 and A2 liquor licenses.
Do we have a second?
I'll give it a second.
Mr. Veenbos is second. Discussion? Yes, Mr. Banger.
Yeah, could you explain that a little further?
So basically, that would make it video gambling in establishments that actually serve food where it's cooked on a grill or cooked in an oven, so that it's going to benefit the people who actually have restaurants versus having establishments that are solely set up for the purpose of video gaming.
Any further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Yes.
Yes, Mr.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gallo.
I feel like that's kind of limiting the options then when we want to spur economic growth, because there might be some investors who are looking to come in to participate in the video gambling should it pass, and then them not necessarily being restaurateurs though. So I think that could limit our potential for spurring that type of growth from other investors beyond restaurateurs.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
Any further discussion? So we have a amendment to amend the code for video gambling to limit it to A1 and A2 licenses. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Gallo,
No.
Baner,
No.
Diestis,
No.
Veenbos,
Yes.
Cannon,
No.
Budmatz,
Yes?
Majikis.
No.
That motion does fail. So that moves us forward to the original ordinance, to amend the code for video gambling. Will the clerk?
Discussion.
Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Baner,
No.
Diestis,
Absolutely yes.
Veenbos,
No.
Cannon,
Yes.
Budmatz,
Yes?
Majikis.
Yes.
Gallo.
Yes.
5 in favor, 2 opposed. The amendment does move forward. That brings us to Ordinance D, to amend the code for natural gas tax. The ordinance, if adopted, would amend the City of Rolling Meadows Code of Ordinances, Chapter 102, taxation to include Article 11, municipal natural gas tax. Do we have a motion to move that forward? Mr. Banger has made that motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. Is there discussion? Mr. Budmatz.
Yes, I'd like to amend the motion or the ordinance so that the gas tax would not be collected until January the 1st of 2019. Because the city stickers are being sold in 2018, those city stickers would fund the 2018 road fund. Therefore, the 2019 gas tax would fund the 2019 fiscal budget for roads, and then there wouldn't be a commingling of funds or perceived double taxation. The sunset provision's already in place that we voted on previously, so without extending the wheel tax, it will already die a natural death. And as previously discussed, I don't see it in the bill or in the ordinance, but I believe that we said we would take all of these funds and put them in the road funds in number 61 in the budget. So my amendment is that it's not collected until January the 1st of 2019.
Okay, do we have a second to that motion? Mr. Gallo has seconded. Further discussion? Mr. Diaz or Mr. Banger?
Thank you. Just a question for clarification from Alderman Budmatz. I don't remember seeing anything that specifically earmarked funds for.
Yeah, it was discussed in the Council of the Whole, and so that was part of my, to make sure that when we pass this ordinance, it goes for roads, and all the money gets earmarked for 61.
But I guess I would say, just regarding earmarking money, I'm typically against that just because it ties the hands of the city staff when they're doing their budget. We have a yearly opportunity to earmark money by making amendments on the budget or or sending direction during our cows to the city staff to move money from fund to fund. So I wouldn't support an amendment to this that earmarks it for anything. Thanks.
Okay, so clarification, your amendment includes
Right.
earmarking it, all the money that would come in from natural gas would go for roads.
Right, and the only, can respond because you said my name,
Go
but
ahead.
it's just that we're replacing an earmarked tax, so therefore it would make sense to replace it with a tax that is similarly earmarked. Otherwise, I would agree with you.
Thank you. Mr. Diastis.
I am opposed to the gas tax. I have always been opposed to the gas tax, and I will continue to oppose a natural gas tax. With respect to the amendment, we buy city stickers for a period of 1 year. If we're going to change the cost of the city stickers to 6 months and then start collection in January, I could consider that. But to pay for city stickers for a 12-month period of time, because they are purchased at the end of June, valid till the end of May, that's 12 months, and then we start collecting a natural gas tax in January, that is double taxation. So I would not agree with that. I did submit to the entire City Council my proposed amendments, which also include a request that all revenue collected become part of the local road fund, and said revenue can only exclusively be used to repair, resurface, or reconstruct an existing roadway. So I agree with that half of your amendment, but I do not agree with the first half of it. So I will probably vote no on the amendment.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
One more line.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Andrew.
Thanks. In regards to earmarking, and I get what you're saying, Alderman Bud Matz. If this was a direct swap, if we were replacing 400K with 400K, but we're not. This is revenue enhancement, if you recall. So if you're gonna insist on replacing, I guess I would suggest you insist on replacing it dollar for dollar. And I wouldn't support it either way, just because I don't want to tie their hands together. As far as I think enacting one and dropping another overly complicates this. When I ran the numbers on my typical Rolling Meadows ranch, I ended up having using 584 therms last year, which would roll in at a $29 tax on this proposed natural gas tax. I currently pay $90 worth of vehicle stickers for our 3 vehicles in the driveway. So regardless of that money, I'm going to be getting that back and then some over the next several years with this change in our tax. So I'm not even going to insist that we rebate or drop vehicle stickers. I would say just roll out vehicle stickers like we do. Staff has already told us this could be 6 months to implement, and here we are already at the 4th month of the year, so it'll probably be 2019 by the time this gets enacted, and I'm not going to say when it's going to be because we don't know. That's up to NICOR. So I'm not going to support any amendments to this. I have transformed my thinking, thanks to Mr. Bud Matz, about this natural gas tax. So I'm supporting the natural gas tax, and I don't want to complicate it by moving all the other parts around. Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion? Mr. Diastis.
Thank you. Since my esteemed colleague brought up how many therms he uses, I used 560 therms in just 2 months. December 14 of 17 through February 7th of 18. So I don't think we can say your house is any more typical than my house is. I used almost as much as you did in 2 months. So just throwing that out there since it was brought up.
Thank you, Mr. Diastis. Further discussion? Can we vote on the amendment Mr. Budmetz's amendment. You want to restate it one more time, Mr. Budmetz?
That we wouldn't start collecting the tax until January the 1st of 2019, and that all the funds collected would be earmarked for the roads fund.
Okay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Diestis?
No.
Veenbos?
No.
Cannon?
No.
Budmetz?
Yes.
Majikis?
Yes.
Gallo?
Yes.
Banjer?
No.
Your amendment fails. Thank you. This goes back to the original ordinance. Any further discussion on the original ordinance?
Mr. Diastis.
Mr. Diastis.
Thank you.
Okay.
I put together an amendment, and it comes in three parts. And I would think it probably would be best to vote on each part separately, but I bring it together as one. So the part one of the amendment is, upon passage of this ordinance, I request that all revenue collected become a part of the local road fund, and said revenue can only exclusively be used to repair, resurface, or reconstruct an existing roadway. So that would be part one, and I think it's, rather than try to commingle all of these as we did previously, although it's one major amendment, I'd say that would be part A, and let's have a conversation on part A of whether or not we want to do this.
Well, I think Mr. McCall has to speak to this. Go ahead.
Maybe the thing to do, Alderman Diaz, is present all through your motions, then there'd be a motion to divide the question and divide them into three separate parts, which are require a second, non-debatable, and then we go from there.
Okay. So the second part would be, upon passage of this ordinance, I request the immediate termination of the wheel tax, otherwise known as the city sticker tax. And then part three would be, upon the commencement of the actual collection of the new natural gas tax, the city will, A, immediately terminate the current wheel tax, otherwise known as the city sticker tax, and 2, refund an appropriate prorated amount of the city sticker tax paid by residents who have previously purchased stickers that expire May 2019. So, Jim, we need a motion to divide the question.
Maybe
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I think the thing to do
a
is
motion to divide the question. So we have a motion. This is a three-part question. So we have a
Right.
motion for the first
And
part.
I think it actually is debatable. So let's divide them into. So
divide
part
it up.
one is the revenue collected. This
Yes.
part will be just for the local road fund.
So do we have a motion for the first question?
He's made the motion. You got a second?
Seconded.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Second. Discussion? Yes.
Yes. Since it has been brought up by staff that the passage of this natural gas tax would be to replace the city stickers tax, and there is nothing in the ordinance that says that. I think it's imperative that we put this in the ordinance so that this council and staff realize that any money collected here is exclusively for the use to be used in the road fund. That is not to say that a future council could not, by ordinance, change this. It would just take a little bit more than somebody snapping a finger and making a change. So that's the first part, and that's the rationale why I think we should have all this money, like Mr. Budman said, be allocated to the road fund.
Okay. Further discussion? Mr. Cannon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I go along with what Mr. Diaz has said and with Mr. Budbatz, even though I didn't agree with this whole premise. I think that part of it I agreed with. I think we all up here realize we're desperately short on road funds. We all know we should be spending $2 or $3 million a year. We're not even coming close to that right now. Anybody who wants to question that can come out to my neighborhood anytime they want, and I'll show them all kinds of streets that should have been done years ago. So I think it's really smart that if we're going to get rid of a tax that was earmarked specifically for roads because it was a vehicle tax, I think we should keep that same thought in mind. So I'm for that part of this proposal. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mr. Banjer?
Thank you. I have the same feelings on this I had with Alderman Budmetz's amendment. I would caution council to remember that the concrete that we drive on is one part of the road. The utilities that lay underneath that concrete and on either side in the right-of-way is another part of that. So when you're talking about we've got to catch up on roads, I would answer that we've got to catch up on a lot of stuff, which is another reason I don't want to bind staff's hands with using this exclusively for roads. We've got water lines, we've got storm sewers, we've got sanitary sewers. That's why they collaborate and talk between Public Works and Finance, et cetera, to figure out what we're going to do on all of those, in addition with other things in the city, including pensions, et cetera. So, again, I don't want to bind their hands when it comes to putting together a budget. If I did have a problem with the budget, during my sit-down, I would express my feelings, and then at the end of the year, when we're voting on a budget, I would make those motions. I don't think this is necessary, and I won't support it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? So for the first part of the divided question is, upon passage of this ordinance, all revenue will become part of the local road fund, and said revenue can only exclusively be used to repair, resurface, or reconstruct an existing roadway in the city of Rolling Meadows. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Veenbos?
Yes.
Cannon?
Yes.
Bud Matts?
Yes.
Majikis?
Yes.
Gallo?
Yes.
Baner?
No.
Diestis?
Yes. 6 in favor, 1 opposed. That question does pass. Mr. Diastis, the second
Thank you.
question.
So the second part of this is relatively simple. It says, upon passage of this ordinance, I request the immediate termination of the wheel tax. I've put this in because if this is a replacement tax, then there's no need to have two taxes be collected on or about at the same time. So I think if the council wants to move ahead with one, then they need to get rid of another.
Thank you. Further discussion? Mr. Budnetz, go ahead.
Okay. The wheel tax is collected in June. Most law-abiding citizens pay their wheel tax in June. It's used in that year. So the 2017 wheel tax was paid in 2017. The sticker says 2017 to 2018, but 95% plus of the wheel tax that was spent on the 2017 roads was collected in 2017 in June and July of 2017. Same thing's going to happen this June and July. If we pass the tax today, like you're saying, and upon passage we repeal the wheel tax, that means we will not have any road money this year. And all of the people who are expecting to have their roads resurfaced this year won't have it happen because of our ineptitude, because we will not be able to get the funds from NIGAS, and there is no tax collected in July and August by comparison because people aren't heating their houses in July and August. They're using electricity to cool them. So I would strongly urge us, that's why I previously said let's wait until January the 1st. So if upon passage of this we eliminate the wheel tax, we basically eliminated our road program for 2018. So I would recommend voting against Part 2 of your amendment.
I'm going to step in and ask just to get clarification from Mr. Vogt. If we eliminate the wheel tax, or is that, Melissa, how will that affect road funding for the rest of the year?
I'll defer to Melissa in Finance.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You are correct that by eliminating the vehicle stickers immediately would eliminate all the funds for the road program this year. So that $500,000 would be zero.
I'm sorry, 500 or 400?
Well, it's $500,000 that we take in, but remember that we do have expenses associated with that. But it also does occur in other funds, so police ticketing and those things occur out of the general fund. When I say $500,000, that's just from the local road fund. So that money that we collect for vehicle stickers would be zero if we terminate this year.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Mr. Diastis.
Thank you. So I've heard $400,000 is what we have to spend, and I've heard now we have $500,000 on the local roads. So I'm under the impression that it's $400,000 because we need $100,000 in expenses, number one. Number two, I believe we have budgeted close to $1 million in road funds this year, so the whole road fund doesn't get terminated. potentially $400,000, which the council could take out of surplus funds from the general fund and do the road fund project this year without missing a beat. So I understand what you're saying, Mr. Budmats, but I think there's ways around it if we want to be creative and not walk around with our feet in concrete.
Who wants to take that? Because I could see either Melissa or Fred, because now we're having an unexpected expenditure out of reserves. Does Melissa or Barry, do you wish to take that?
Well, there's two parts of that question. So again, when you do look in the budget, and let me do some clarifications. When you look at the overall local road budget, there's actually a gas tax that goes from the gasoline. That's our overall, every time you fuel up at any of the gasoline stations, we do get part of that. That's the local gas tax that we have. Now, we also have the vehicle sticker tax that actually pays, also known as the wheel tax. That's also part of it. So when you look at our overall revenues, you will look at all the revenue lines in there. And again, there's a $500,000 revenue line. Now, that's what we're talking about. If you don't have the revenue, then you can't do the overall programs. When you look at the expenses, and some of those expenses have already been utilized already up to this point in time, and some of them are going to trickle more because we are gearing up for the vehicle sticker wheel tax as it comes up. That is the other number that we keep on saying, what is the true amount that's actually going to be out the door? So again, when you look at it, typically, again, as what's been stated by Alderman Budmats, is that in a given year, our wheel tax, about 95% of that is going straight back into the year that we are doing streets. I would caution very, very, very carefully, and again, Alderman Diastis has stated he wants to take it from the general fund. The local road fund really doesn't have any reserves. So all that you're doing is depleting a fund that really has very, very limited funds at this point in time. This is also one of those funds that when Finance Director Melissa Gallagher and I talk to the auditors, always have a concern because it's been depleted, it's negative, it doesn't have a lot. When you look at other municipalities, they typically have 1 year or more of reserves in that, and that deals in how much capital items you're going. So I know that's a long detailed, but again, the given year that we are doing the wheel taxes for those roads as they continue on. So the immediate elimination will make a fund that is really, it has significant concerns to make it even more negative, and to go to the council, and that's your decision, that you would like to use reserves from general fund, but then again, that brings up more of a concern of where you're just taking money again as you continue to move. I know that's more of a detailed, but again, staff is comfortable with stating exactly what Alderman Budmats has stated, is that the wheel tax stays in place. It has a sunset as of December 31st of this year. It goes away. January, the natural gas starts, and that would be accumulating money for the 2019 scheduled road program. So we actually have an overall program. So I know that's a little more detailed. Again, you got to look at the revenues, and you have to look at the expenses overall. And then, again, a fund that really is significantly dependent on other funds, plus it's really a major concern. And we've never, ever stopped doing roads. We've had conversations about utilizing reserves in the past, and that's a council decision. It's just something that we have not brought up. I would make this last caveat as we're discussing tonight, and I do not want to stop anybody from having discussions. But whatever you decide tonight, we do have a committee of the whole meeting that is going to be scheduled next week. We can have more discussions about this at that point in time and come back with some ideas. But again, I know that's a little more detailed, but this is first reading.
I just have a follow-up clarification. The request from Mr. Diastis is to take it out of reserves. Now we've been taking money out of reserves for the land acquisition for 2 different fire stations, and you will be meeting with the auditors with the CAFRA in June, and there is a discussion going forward concerning floating bonds, the positive, negative effect if we're working in this direction by continuing to take money out of reserves.
Please remember that part of what this council has done in the past and through staff is that we worked with bond counsel, and we do have an enabling ordinance. So when we do go out for bonds, we can reimburse the general fund for the land acquisition and some of the other points that reserves have been utilized in the past. So again, there will be reserves in the general fund, and also per past enabling ordinance that has been passed by the City Council, we're also protecting it. So when we do go out for bonds, we can replenish some of those funds that the general fund has already utilized for some of the work that we've done.
Will that be able to replenish it for the roads, or would that be a separate issue?
When we talk about bonds, that will be a discussion, and as we've stated in the past, staff feels that when we discuss going out for a bond, we should be talking about the fire stations and specifically any utilities. So again, local roads could be a utility that we talked about, and I know that in past discussions in committee of the whole meetings at the ad hoc committee, we've talked about taking out additional money in bonds to do some catch up. But it was that comfort level. That's going to be the City Council decision. I know staff-wise, we've talked about do you do 1 bond or 2, but that's also going to be a comfort level in how you hear part of the presentations. But I know that this is getting way past
yes, thank you.
What we were asked.
I understood. I just want the effect of doing this.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
May I ask them?
Sure, go ahead.
Barry, could you make me understand something? I thought last year in the fall when we passed this year's budget, we asked the citizens to pay 4.8% more that was going to be directed to the road fund. Is that what did I misunderstand? Or am I speaking out of not correct?
I'm trying to figure it.
I thought we had our tax increase this year was dedicated strictly to roads for next year, for this year. Excuse me.
You're talking about the property tax increase of 4.8?
Yeah.
Remember that part of the property tax, and I don't have it in front of me, so I'm doing this by memory. Remember that there's some utilization of some bond proceeds that we had coming off, but we had pensions, we had 911, we had local roads, we had a whole litany of different items that went into that property tax increase. So now the page is open, so I can tell you exactly. So, and again, we're way past what the subject is.
I understand.
Let's focus on the motion.
We'll go back to the motion. My original question was just to see what happens. So the original question, any further discussion on the second question?
Well, you didn't answer my question. I mean, isn't that a focus what we're talking about? We're talking about funding.
The motion is whether you want to terminate the wheel tax.
Yeah, so we brought it out there, and that's a further discussion. So any further discussion on eliminating the wheel tax? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Cannon?
No.
Budmats?
No.
Majikis?
No.
Gallo?
No.
Baner?
No.
Diastis?
Yes.
Beanbass?
No.
With six no's and 1 yes, that motion is defeated. So that makes the third one.
No, the third one is coming up. That was the second one.
To refund the prorated amount.
We're on the second one. The third one?
Now we're on the third one.
Okay, third. Okay, so Mr. Diastis, on the commencement of the actual collection of the new natural gas tax, the city will, A, immediately terminate the current wheel tax, otherwise known as the city sticker tax. 2, refund an appropriate prorated amount of the city sticker tax by residents who have previously purchased stickers that expire in May 2019. Do we have a motion on this question?
So moved.
Mr. Diastis has made it. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Veenbaas has seconded. Discussion?
So,
Mr. Diastis, thank you.
Sorry. This one is different than number 2 because this says upon the commencement of the actual collection. similar to what Mr. Budmat said. He gave it a date of January. This one says we terminate the wheel tax once we start collecting from NICOG. Part 2 of this is then, since it's only fair, we should refund the prorated amount. The stickers are a 12-month purchase. We may spend it all in 6 months or in 3 months or in a given fiscal year, but you're purchasing a sticker for a 12-month period of time. And once we've eliminated that sticker, we should refund to the residents the portion that they're not using, and that's only fair.
Further discussion? Mr. Cannon.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. There's lots of different parts of this that I understand and agree with, but the overall situation we've put ourselves in is just not a good place, in my opinion. No matter what we do tonight, newspapers that cover us will print in the near future, Rolling Meadows, it keeps city stickers or gets rid of city stickers. And there's going to be so much confusion in our marketplace, in our city, as to what's going on, no matter what we pass, because they're overlapping. There's confusion as to when it's going to take place. So I guess I would respectfully ask, I'm not going to ask for a motion, but I would ask people to think about maybe pushing this all back and implementing it, to say we'll go forward after the first of the year. So maybe next year we can implement it the exact time we get rid of the city stickers. Because I see this nothing but a headache for the police department. I see nothing. I mean, if someone moves in here, if we go through with what we're doing right now, someone moves into our town in November, do they buy a city sticker? Because technically they're unlawful, because if they don't get one, they're not following our rules. But it just we've complicated it so much that I think it's just really confusing no matter what we pass. So I would just respectfully ask people to think about just pushing this all back, not forever, but pushing it all back till the fall at least. Just my thought. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Further discussion on the third part of the question? Mr.
I just respectfully ask the council to not do this, because the administrative nightmare of trying to do a prorating and all the other pieces. And again, we understand exactly what you're talking about, Alderman Cannon, and there would be a transition. And you are correct that for this year, when people hear, hey, for 2018, you will be buying city stickers and there will be enforcement and there will be all the other pieces. And then some coming in November, we're going to have to work on it. But at the same point in time, the sunset comes up December 31st, and it's done no matter what if the council does not approve anything. And I would say that we're not going to be negative to people, but we understand exactly what you're saying, and we are going to be respectful for that. But at this point in time, I would say, again, city stickers, the wheel tax specifically is paying for a portion of the road program, local road program. It goes through for this year, and then January, as what was discussed and made as a discussion item, but did not fail. But the ordinance, and again, it's only in for first reading, still states that it would be hopefully as quickly as NICOR can get in. But at the same point in time, we completely understand what you're saying. We just respectfully ask that it just continues as it is. And this third one about doing prorated, which really would be an interesting adventure, and I don't want to speak for the finance department or the finance director, but I would really recommend that we don't go that way.
Okay. Mr. Diastis.
Well, I respectfully disagree with our city manager. I don't think that residents should have to pay for a year's worth of city stickers just because it might be a little bit of work for our staff. The city stickers are pretty much a fixed cost, 20, 40, 60, whatever it is. You divide it by 12 months, you set a date and say, okay, we're collecting the gas tax starting whenever NICOR can do it, 4 to 6 months. So it could be as soon as August or as late as September. And if it's August, that's 2 months. We have to rebate 10 months to the residents. That's the fair thing to do. It's not a matter of how easy it is for us. We've got computer systems and staff that can put this together. This is what's right for the residents. And what's right for the residents is they should not have to pay a year's worth of city stickers just to make it easy for somebody on staff or for us. We have to learn how to fix this. And right now, the way it's written, this ordinance is wrong.
Further discussion?
Yeah.
Mr. Budmats.
I've lived in other municipalities where you purchased your city sticker in January or December, and you had it installed in your vehicle. So you went out in the freezing cold and installed it in January on your car. And I think common sense says that somebody in Rolling Meadows said, let's do this in June when it's warm rather than in January. Your budget has never taken and spread the money that's collected by this tax over 2 fiscal years. So it's obvious that somebody wanted, when they originally had this tax, to collect the tax and use the tax in the same year. Otherwise, you would have, in the prior budget years, split it for over 2 years, the collection of that tax. So we have never done that in the past. So I would say that it was originally intended to be collected and used in the same year. So the fact that it only gets purchased once every 12 months doesn't mean that it's actually prorated over 12 months. It's paid once. It's used up literally that year, and then the rest of the year we wait until the next. Nobody's going to be building roads in January either. So it's really, it doesn't make sense to cut checks and prorate a tax. And we're talking about prorations on $30, on $60. I mean, if it was thousands of dollars, yes, I agree. But we're talking about a $30 tax, and we're going to write people checks and have our staff spend time writing people checks for $6 or $8. I disagree with you, this amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Budmats. Okay. Further discussion?
Only if I can respond to that.
This will be your last shot at the apple.
I don't know if I agree with what you said, because many years ago we weren't on a calendar budget system. We were on fiscal, and that got changed back in the Tom Menzel days.
All right.
So this could have been a carryover that was never fixed, number one. Number two, we've got a lot of seniors in our city on fixed incomes. And according to this write-up, there was 1,400 or 1,500 seniors. And I thought I read somewhere here that we're assuming that most of them have 3 cars, which is kind of ridiculous to assume, I think. But that's where the data came from, I guess. I don't know if the data is correct. But that's more than $6 or $8. It's a lot of money for a senior. And I would venture a guess that most seniors probably have the heat in their homes turned up higher than I do. I run my house at 64. I'm sure most seniors run it a lot higher, so they're paying more in the gas tax. I'm sorry, I think we need to work for... I have always been in favor of putting more money to the roads, but I think we need to be fair to all the residents, the seniors, and all those individual residents, those households that have less than 3 cars. I think we need to do something, and if this isn't the right thing, then we need to talk about what the right thing is. But just because we collected this year and we spend it all, does that mean that if I move in January, I don't have to buy a city sticker until June because it's not going to get spent till the following year? Or if I don't buy a sticker now and I can get through till the end of December without getting caught, then I don't have to buy it again? I mean, we enforce it for a year, so I'm assuming that it's valid for a year. So let's not mix everything up. And that's my third one, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
That's it. Okay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Budmats?
No.
Wojciechowski?
No.
Gallo?
No.
Baner?
No.
Diestis?
Yes.
Veenbos?
No.
Cannon?
No.
With 6 opposed and 1 yes, it fails. Go back to the original cast. Back to G. So now we're back to D, the original natural gas tax. Was there any further, do we have a first and a second? Any further discussion on this? No? No. Yes, okay. Will the clerk please call the roll then, please?
Majikis?
Yes.
Gallo?
Yes.
Baner?
Yes.
Diestis?
No.
Veenbos?
No.
Cannon?
No.
Bud Matts?
Yes.
With 4 forward and 3 against, it does move forward. This brings us to Ordinance E, to amend the zoning code for side yard setbacks. This ordinance, if adopted, would modify the setback requirements for the corner side yard from 30 to 20 feet. The setback will allow structures including fences, sheds, decks, and others. The 20-foot setback will allow residents use of more of their lots while preserving visibility in the line of sight for drivers turning corners. At the March 6, 2018 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, a public hearing, a unanimous 7-0-2 vote was provided in support of the proposed zoning text amendment. Do we have a motion to move this amendment forward? Mr. Baner has made that. We have a second. Is there discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Gallo?
Yes.
Baner?
Yes.
Diestis?
Yes.
Veenbos?
Yes.
Cannon?
Yes.
Bud Matts?
Yes.
Majikis?
Yes.
7 in favor, none opposed. This brings us to Ordinance F, to amend the code for restaurant incentive. The ordinance, if adopted, would amend Chapter 102, taxation of the Code of Ordinances by adding Section 102-147, restaurant tax incentives. Do we have a motion to move this forward?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Diastis has made that motion. Do we have a second? Mr. Baner has made that. Mr. Baner, you've pulled it, so you have first opportunity.
Thank you. As you may recall, I've been skeptical about programs like this forever. Definitely the deal breaker for me was when this was expanded to the whole city. This always has been a concern by residents, specifically on Kirchhoff Road, so I won't be supporting it.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on this? Mr. Cannon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess there was, when we had the committee of the whole meeting, there was a couple of questions asked that people were going to do some investigating on. And I don't know if I've seen all the answers for that. We specifically asked if someone could get in front of some business owners that are actually in the restaurant business to get a reaction from them, for one. I don't see anything in the write-up that we've actually talked to anybody.
Did you talk to anybody on staff before this?
I didn't know I was supposed to.
Well, it came out on Friday.
I know. I read it. I have Life too. I read it today.
I understand, but it came out on Friday, so we had time. Mr. Krumstock, I guess. I mean, no one has come forward with it. So, do you have an answer to his question, possibly, or?
I know from one person I talked to, and that was a informal discussion. They were positive of it, but they also brought up how long is this incentive for, and if they're already talking to me, and there are businesses who talk to me 1 year, 2 years, and it depends on other pieces. And I'd like to use an example, and I think some of you have heard me say this tonight. You did approve a liquor license application for a business who has talked to the city some time ago, and now he's back, but he could not finish the deal with the old shopping center, and now he's back. And when I did ask him if the incentive, he said he was moving ahead with it no matter what, but he thought it was a good deal. But I did not take that on to my point in time to actually do that. And Alderman Cannon, if you do look at the minutes from the Committee of the Whole meeting, not to put an alderman on the spot, but Alderman Diastis said that he would actually talk to a few of the businesses. So what we were asked for as staff, which is in here, and this goes back to Alderman Banger's conversation, there's a new section that I was asked to think about for Kirchhoff Road, and that's the 60/40. So different from the rest of the incentive. So that's actually in there. So
just so you understand, I'm not trying to put you or anybody else on the spot.
I'm just telling you how.
Okay, gentlemen.
Yeah, when I wrote the council action summary, I only put the detail that we had at that point in time. So I didn't go back to Alderman Diastis and say, what was your feedback? I was leaving it up to that point in time. And I will tell you, when City Attorney Jim McCall and I were talking about this, we never talked about that. We only talked about the Kirchhoff Road carve back. This is the first time that most of you are seeing that 60/40. But at the same point in time, at that committee of the whole, we also discussed a timeline, but there was no straw vote on that either, and that's why there is no timeline on this either. So I hope that answers where the feedback was and why certain things are not.
Mr. Cannon, does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I have some other questions when I can ask them.
Well,
we had also talked about, I had asked about the possibility of trying to move up some of these incentives time-wise, so an owner would get the money sooner. And it doesn't seem like that was addressed in any way here. This is kind of what we talked about.
Well, okay, Mr. Diastis.
I did talk to, I apologize for not letting Mr. Krumstek know, I did have two off-the-cuff kind of conversations with a couple of restaurateurs I know, and they said number one thing that they look for when selecting a site is, as we all know, location, location, location. If it's got the right location, then the incentive, if they've got two places and everything is, on all things being equal with the locations, and somebody is offering an incentive, they'll look at the incentive, they'll take more consideration on the incentive. So, I mean, that's about as close to an answer as I got. So the answer was, it's got to be the right location to begin with, and then if there's two equal or three equal locations and somebody's offering them some kind of an incentive, that weighs on their decision. We didn't get into counts or anything like that. We just talked about this in general terms. So overall, yes, it would help, but it's not going to force somebody to go someplace where they don't want to go if they don't think they can make a go of it.
So, thank you, Mr. Diaz. Did it answer your question?
It does. And I guess the other one, since we don't really have it in there, I mean, I think it's great that we have an incentive. I think we're missing the mark, but that's just an opinion. I think, like I've stated on a number of occasions, if people are starting a business, they need the money up front. They don't need it a year later. But that's an opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Baner?
No.
Diastis?
Yes.
Veenbos?
Yes.
Cannon?
Yes.
Bud Matts?
Yes.
Majikis?
Yes.
Gallo?
No.
5 for and 2 against. The ordinance does move forward. That brings us to new business, the motion to approve the payments of bills on warrants 4, 10, 18. The next item of business is to approve those warrants as presented by the Finance Department. Is there a motion to approve the warrant?
So move, Mayor.
Ms. Majikis has made that. We have a second. Thank you, Mr. Veenbos. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Diastis?
Yes.
Veenbos?
Yes.
Cannon?
Yes.
Bud Matts?
Yes.
Majikis?
Yes.
Gallo?
Yes.
Baner?
Yes.
7 in favor, none opposed. The warrant is approved. And the next item on the agenda is the consent resolution. It consists of 4 items, H through K. Does any alderman wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Yes, Mr. Cannon.
H and I.
That leaves us with Mr. Diastis.
J.
Okay, we no longer have a consent. This brings us to Resolution H, number 18-R-30, approve the local public agency agreement for federal participation with the Illinois Department of Transportation for the proposed Euclid Avenue Rolling Road to Salt Creek Bike Path Project, construction and construction engineering costs. This resolution, if adopted, would authorize the execution of an agreement between the City of Rolling Meadows, the Illinois Department of Transportation, for construction and construction engineering costs associated with the proposed Euclid Avenue Bike Path between Rolling Road and Salt Creek. Do I have a motion to move this resolution forward? Mr. Banger has made it. Mr. Veenbos has seconded. Mr. Cannon, you have pulled this. You have first choice.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ever since we started this project, I've been against it. I'm not against bike paths. I think the amount of money we're spending on this, along with the state in Arlington Heights, is completely excessive. To be spending $800,000 on a bike path that's not even a mile long is very, 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 very expensive. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any other? Yes, Mr. Diaz.
I think if we, I would agree that 800,000 is excessive, and I think the 132,000 that we would spend out of our own funding could be easily put towards roads, which I think is more important for a majority of the residents. Not to say that the bike path wouldn't be nice for some, but I think more of us use the roads, and I'd sooner see that money go towards roads. I'll vote no on this.
Thank you. I just have a question for Mr. Vogt then, because I know that we're deep into this project right now, and I know that we've been deep into other projects. So pulling out of this project, what effect will it have for the city, not only now but in the future?
Because we're on a tight timeline, staff is asking that this project be able to proceed in order to meet the requirements of the Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program funding that we received a few years ago. We're on a deadline to get this project built in September, I believe it is, October of this year, in order to have those funds. Should a project like this, at this point in the project, be the desire of the city to pull out of, we are at risk for having to pay back the Phase 1 and Phase 2 engineering costs that we've already incurred and have received some reimbursement from the state on already, and would expect further reimbursements to come based on the contracts that we already had executed.
Thank you. Further discussion on H? Mr. Diaz.
What's the cost?
The sunk cost.
No, the cost that we might have to reimburse. That's a important number to know.
Yeah, I'd say probably, without being certain, probably between 90,000 and 120,000.
I would make a motion to postpone this until we can get a firm number, because how can we make a decision without knowing what the actual reality of this is?
You can make that motion. I guess the chair would ask that in the future, if individuals have questions, because this agenda does come out on Friday, correct? And you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and Tuesday to talk to staff ahead of time. We're putting staff on at a very, deer in the headlights situation, because you're asking them for information, and they had 4 days where they could have provided whatever you needed. So if you still would like to make a motion to postpone, feel free to do that. But
motion to postpone.
Do we have a second? Mr. Cannon has made a second. Further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll then?
Veenbos?
Yes.
Cannon?
Yes.
Budmats?
Yes.
Majikis?
No.
Gallo?
No.
Baner?
No.
Diaz?
Yes.
We have 4 yeses, 3 noes, so this motion will be postponed. This resolution will be postponed. That brings us to Resolution I, number 18-R-31, order to award a contract for construction engineering services for Euclid Avenue Bike Path. This resolution, if adopted, would authorize the approval of construction engineering services agreement for federal participation for engineering services needed for the Euclid Avenue Bike Path construction project. Do I have a motion to move I forward? Mr. Banger has made that. It's been seconded by Mr. Veenbos. Mr. Cannon, you have pulled this one.
As I stated previously, I'm guessing because we just postponed H, I don't know why we would be working on this one at the moment until we get a resolution to the first one.
So you're making a motion to postpone.
I'll make a motion to postpone then.
Second.
Seconded. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Cannon?
Yes.
Budmats?
Yes.
Majikis?
No.
Gallo?
No.
Baner?
No.
Diaz?
Yes.
Veenbos?
Yes.
Okay, with that, the motion passes to postpone. That brings us to Resolution J, number 18-R-32, to approve change order number 1, consolidated and final for the construction of Squibb Avenue extension and reconstruction widening. This resolution, if adopted, would approve a change order number 1 for the construction of a new roadway extension and the reconstruction of a portion of the existing Squibb Avenue from Apollo Drive to Ring Road. Is there a motion to move this resolution forward? Mr. Benger has made that. Majakis has seconded. Mr. Diastis, you have pulled this one.
Thank you. This appears to be adding more, if I'm correct, to a consent that was rejected a couple weeks ago. So, and this, I believe, Mr. Gallo brought this to our attention, asking why did it take so long to get these numbers back to the council, and why isn't this in real time? And at that time, I voted no, and this is just increasing that amount as I read this. And please correct me if I'm wrong, Fred. Is this not increasing that amount that we rejected several weeks ago?
Yes, Alderman Diastis, it is increasing the amount that was considered by the council 4 weeks ago, when at that time staff brought to the city council only 3 items that is on this list for items. We informed the council in that report that there were additional costs, primarily due to soils, earth excavation, and the like. What we've done in that month since the council voted 3-3 on that matter was to be able to work with our city engineer and to finish all of the negotiations for all of the outstanding items at that point. The change orders were brought to city council back in March because we felt it important to try to pay the contractor at that time as a progress payment for work that they had already done, and for work that the city engineer and city staff had already reached agreement on. So what you're seeing here at this meeting is the culmination of all of the other outstanding items that we had at that time.
So
thank you, Mr. Vogt.
I'll give you a second.
Give me a second. Excuse me, Mr. Diastis. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yes, Mr. Diastis.
Go ahead. Then.
Thank you. I understand, and more than likely, this council is going to approve this, but my bigger question is, what are we going to do in the future so that we don't get a change order that was completed in May, June, whenever it was completed, and now we're getting it 6 months, 8 months later? That's the bigger question of this. So I would defer. That's all I have to say on this.
Thank you. Mr. Gallo,
to your point about
Mr. Gallo, did you wish to be recognized?
Well,
thank you.
To your point, in approval, I begrudgingly voted to approve it. But yes, these things should not continue to occur. And so we know that it's part of a package from previous conversations and change orders. But we don't want to see this going forward.
Thank you. Mr. Vogt.
Thank you, Mayor. And if I may, staff is working on a report for the Committee of the Whole next week that will discuss change order processes. We'll discuss project engineering and how we have to administer some of the things that are encountered in the field that are done on a short-term basis because there's costs involved with the contracts. Obviously, the biggest thing with Squibb Drive was the earth excavation items, which basically get resolved towards the end of the project after the road is graded and the pavement is put in. Items such as storm sewer water mains are here of lesser amounts. Certainly one of the discussions we may want to have, or the council may want to have, is at what point or at what cost or at what percentage of a contract do you want to see items in potential change order form, or we do those as progress reports when we have payment approvals to the contractor. Number of things that staff will bring up for discussion next week.
Thank you, Mr. Vogt. Any further discussion? Yes, Mr. Cannon.
So, Fred, for a point of clarification, I just want to make sure that I'm on board here. So, our original estimate was $925,000. It looks like the project came in about $650 altogether. Am I correct with my numbers, or am I off there?
The final amount will be about $650.
So we're a lot lower than what we originally thought.
What the engineers had estimated, correct.
Great. Thank you for that explanation.
Based on the bids received.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Banjer?
Thank you. I guess in my previous life as working in a survey crew dealing with project layout, change orders were kind of a daily thing. So these weren't too surprising. I get the points my colleagues mentioned about timing of these. I'm not going to say I necessarily personally think it's something I want to see whenever they come plus or minus, because as Mr. Cannon pointed out, this came minus $250,000 below the contractors, or below our budgeted amount based on the contractor's proposal, which Fred described to me as very competitive, which ended up in our favor. We've had these discussions in the past about change orders, and I think it's always good to point out that we have to be careful the message we send, or we'll never get a low bid again, because contractors will know that we'll haggle with them over things like this, and so they'll add 20% in cost, or they'll do something like that, so we won't see any bids like this come in. And I know we had this conversation years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago, when there was a change order for some utility conflict right off of Plum Grove, and that was a big conversation. And at the end of it, I think we all agreed, boy, if we were contractors thinking about doing business with the city, hearing that discussion, we'd either think twice or we'd pad the bid, because who knows, what sort of reaction we'd get if anything unexpected happens. So, just a word of caution when we're looking at these. Also, I just wanted to point out Mr. Cannon's point. This came way in under our estimate. So, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Bud Matts?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat the motion? We've had so much discussion. I'm at a loss.
The resolution, if adopted, would approve change order number 1 for the construction of a new roadway extension and the reconstruction of a portion of the existing Squibb Avenue from Apollo Drive to Ring Road.
Yes.
Majikis?
Yes.
Gallo?
Yes.
Banjer?
Yes.
Diastis?
No.
Veenbos?
Yes.
Cannon?
Yes.
6 votes in favor and 1 opposed. The resolution moves forward. That brings us to Resolution K, number 18-R-33, approve the release of closed session minutes and tapes. This resolution, if adopted, would release closed session minutes and tapes identified at the March 27th, 2018 closed session meeting. And do I have a motion to move forward? Mr. Majikis has made that. It has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Majikis?
Yes.
Gallo?
Yes.
Banjer?
Yes.
Diastis?
Yes.
Veenbos?
Yes.
Cannon? Bud Matts?
Yes.
7-4, and it moves forward. This brings us to other business. The mayor has no appointments at this time, but I will announce that at the end of the month, and you will be receiving it the next week, we have several commissions that need reappointments. So I will be giving your names and phone numbers out to them. Plus, there's one new pension board, I believe. So we'll be sending out the resume and the information on that one. Mayor proclamation is the Arbor Day. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and trees in our city increase the property values, enhance the economic vitality of the business area, and beautify our community. Trees, whereas trees, whenever they are planted, are a source of a joy and spiritual renewal. Whereas the city of Rolling Meadows has been recognized as Tree City USA for the 29th year by the National Arbor Day Foundation, and desire to continue its tree planting ways. Now, therefore, I, Len Prana, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Rolling Meadows, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 27th, Arbor Day in the city of Rolling Meadows. That brings forward, does the clerk have a report?
No, Mr. Mayor.
That brings us to staff. Community items of interest, Mr. Crumstock?
Thank you, Mayor Prina and City Council. Obviously, we have a few, and I have two to add. Earth Day activities are set for Saturday, April 21st from 9 a.m. to noon. Individuals who would like to participate should meet at the Old Public Works at 3200 Central Road. There's a lot of creek work that needs to be done. For information, please contact Public Works at 847-963-0500. And then we do want to keep on reminding, and there will be another quick update by the business advocate Martha Corner coming up at the Rolling Meadows Business and Community Showcase is scheduled for Rolling Meadows High School on Saturday, April 28th. You'll hear more about that. Please plan on attending. Mark and Dale in the back. Just a friendly reminder, yard waste collection and street sweeping has started throughout the city. For information, please contact Public Works, again, that 847-963-055 or 0500, or visit the website. Obviously, for the next few city council meetings, we will be mentioning that the pancake breakfast for Saturday, May 12th is scheduled from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Fire Chief Valentino and his crew will be out there, and some other members of the fire department, retired and active, will be there doing the cooking. And this is to benefit the Rolling Meadows Golden Years Council, and it is located at Park Central, 3000 Central Road. There is a fee for this event. Please see the flyers that we have throughout City Hall, or you can see me and I can give you the flyer. And then also on that same Saturday, May 12th, the Garden Club Hometown Plant and Craft Sale will be going on. That is from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., and that's at the Public Works Building located at 3200 Central Road. And also on that day, the Historical Museum, which is now open after their renovation and remodeling, at 3100 Central Road, will be doing and conducting an open house, and you can also buy cookies there. I don't know who's cooking the cookies this year, but most of the members.
Most of the members.
But that's also on Saturday, May 12th. And then obviously, because it's the end of the month for, or April, I should say, is when we do electronic e-news and views. Please visit the website. The two that I do want to add that are not on the list is that there's an open house. Some people are calling it a grand opening, but it's really an open house at Anytime Fitness at 3256 Kirchhoff Road coming up this Saturday. It's from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. There will be a ceremonial ribbon cutting around 11 o'clock. I say around because I can never guarantee what time we start. But that is, again, Anytime Fitness, which is in the downtown 3256 Kirchhoff Road. That's from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., and they do have some specials during that open house. The other item that I do want to mention, and I did give copies to the city council members, and this letter is actually being sent out by 214, and we will put this actually on some other locations and mention it a few more times. But 214 is doing what they are calling a preview night at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, May 9th, to go over their construction projects that will be happening at Rolling Meadows High School. This will be conducted in the theater in the high school, but they do have renovation, repair, and creating an addition at the high school. So again, this will be scheduled for this preview night, 7 p.m. on Wednesday, May 9th at the Rolling Meadows High School. With that, that is items of interest. If I can very quickly move to the Committee of the Whole, which is coming up. We will be back with the recycling contract renewal. We did get some numbers back from our current vendor. We would like to have a discussion with the City Council. We do have the draft RFP ready to go too, but we need to have a discussion and tell you what our findings were. There will be a conversation about Kirchhoff and Owl vacant property. We do have more information on that. Algonquin Road vacant property, that is the city one. Off that area, we do have a new appraisal finally, so we can have that conversation. And then what has been alluded to earlier in the meeting, we will have a discussion about bidding and proposals, change orders, construction contract management, and finally, the last item for the night, Alderman Banger will be having another discussion about chickens. And that one is a repeat discussion. So those are the items that we have for the Committee of the Whole coming up next week.
Mr. Banger, will you be serving omelets that night? I mean,
No, only if it passes.
oh, thank you. This brings us to the Business and Community Showcase. Martha Corner, please. Thank you.
Mayor. The city is pleased to announce its first ever City of Rolling Meadows Business and Community Showcase to be held Saturday, April 28th at the Rolling Meadows High School. The event will be open to the public from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. and free of charge. The showcase is set up to welcome all businesses located in the city to showcase their services and products to residents and other leaders in the community. This is a great way to shop and learn about Rolling Meadows businesses in a relaxed environment. Today, with more time left, we have approximately 30 businesses participating in the showcase event. A complete list of those exhibitors is available to view on the city website in the community events section. To further enhance the experience, businesses will be free to distribute samples, coupons, calendars, pens, etc. And we have a series of activities taking place during the event. The Carl Sandburg Junior High School Orchestra will be performing. A licensed raffle will be hosted by the Rolling Meadows Chamber of Commerce. There will be live demonstrations by the Illinois Grappling Club, which is located here in Rolling Meadows. And lastly, there will be live music during the course of the event by Josh Patterson. Again, all the information is available on the city website, and we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any matters not on the agenda this evening? Yes, Ms. Matakis.
Thank you. I just asked if maybe in a future COW meeting, obviously not next month or next week or whatever, that maybe we could discuss about some animal control. I've had a few residents reach out about some problems, and so if we could just maybe have a little discussion, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Matakis. And there is a request to go into closed session for union negotiations, AMS CME number 5, Illinois 120-2, C2 of the Illinois Opens Meetings Act, and then there is another request for union negotiations, Local 150, ILCS 120-2, C2 of the Illinois Opens Meetings Act. It does require a motion and a roll call. Do I have a motion? Mr. Veenbos has made it. It has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Gallo?
Yes.
Baner?
Yes.
Diestis?
Yes.
Veenbos?
Yes.
Cannon?
Yes.
Budmats?
Yes.
Majikis?
Yes.
7 in favor, none opposed. It does pass. The audience and press are advised that we do not anticipate taking any action upon returning to open session.
Oh, you got something.